Welcome to WorkSpan TV. I'm Ryan Johnson from WorldatWork. In this segment, we have a case study with MillerCoors Brewing, talking with Patel, MillerCoors, about how they've gotten employee input to decide what they should offer in their total rewards package. And let me start there. This is a project that you initiated a little more than a year ago in the middle of 2011.
That's right.
Talk about the impetus behind the decision to pursue this idea. I know you did a conjoint, and I know you also did employee surveying. Talk about that.
As we think about MillerCoors, really diverse background of employees. As we want to make sure that we're investing the right kind of dollars, we want to make sure it's meaningful to our employees. And really to do that well, thought that it'd probably be better to really dig in and do a conjoint analysis, which really kind of gets into employees doing a trade-off and understanding from them what do they value and what are they willing to give up in place of something else. Analysis really helps us understand better by level, by function, by age per se, what kind of drivers are important to people from a compensation and benefits perspective. So as we think about our total rewards package, we're actually putting the money in the right spots.
And for people who might not know what conjoint analysis is, can you just talk for a second about what that is and how you did it?
Conjoint analysis is a survey that we used, and it's really a really in-depth data analysis type of survey that looks at trade-offs that an employee is asked to make. So they start out with a pretty basic question about what do you feel about a certain total rewards package. And as they go through this survey, it's actually very flexible and it changes with their answers. At the end, we understand what do they value the most and what are they willing to give up.
So you came in with the premise that the generations within your workforce might be valuing different things. Was that in fact proven out? I know the data is just very recent, but was it proven out?
Yeah, absolutely. We found that whether it be by age, by grade within the company, a little bit by location even, what people value really does differ. And it probably makes sense to what we as total reward professionals have seen over a period of time, but now we're able to use this more detailed information to make better informed decisions as we think about benefit changes, compensation changes over a period of time.
So now you have the data back, and as I said a minute ago, it's fairly recent. So I'm just curious, what are the next steps for you in this project?
Yeah, in terms of next steps, a lot of interesting things that we found out. Some of it related to compensation and benefits, some of it related to just our overall work environment and what do employees really value. So next steps really is to maybe look at, of course, low-hanging fruit. What are things that we can implement relatively quickly that maybe have a high degree of impact to our employees in terms of what they value. And of course, we'll think about a longer-term solution that will engage the different responses that we got. But also, I actually see this as an ongoing process.
You and I talked before the camera was on here, somewhat interesting about how you also are thinking about this from a performance angle. In other words, if the employee isn't performing to standard, talk about that in the context of your total rewards offering.
We believe in pay for performance. And one of the things that we found from our employee survey was that actually employees really value differentiating as well. What we want to make sure that we do is we continue our pay for performance approach, but that we continue to embed it even at a further degree across all of our compensation programs. And so what we found from employees is that they value it. High performers really seek to make sure that we're differentiating our compensation components, but low performers understand as well why we do that. So really next steps for us around that is to ensure that we continue to embed that across the organization, that we educate our employees on how we do that and why we do it. But the good news is employees really understand why it's happening. Now we need to ensure that we continue to drive that across all components of pay.
So we've talked extensively here about the employees. What about the executives, the folks above you? How have you brought them along, and are there any lessons from your interactions with them in this whole process?
Absolutely. I mean, it's been a great learning for all of us. I think for our executives, they really value this because it helps them be better informed as they're helping make decisions about compensation and benefit programs. They've actually come along for the ride as well, because as we look again as a diverse employee workforce, we all look at compensation and benefits from probably our own perspectives. They're able to actually now use this information to make really well-informed decisions.
You and I were talking about the survey that you actually implemented, and you commented that it was difficult for employees to complete the survey, sometimes up to 30 minutes.
As we put the survey together, we knew it was going to take some time. If you really think about conjoint analysis, actually making sure that we get all the employees' perspectives included, it's going to take some time to get through those questions. We did some really solid communication up front, letting employees know that it would take some time so that they had put that time aside to really think about the survey. The feedback that we got was twofold, right? It was hard in the sense of they had to think about what was important to them. And so that was a really good, learning from an employee perspective. It also, I think, helped them realize what the employer has to go through when they think about how to best use the investment dollars that they have when they invest into their employees. So great learning from that perspective.
Was there any difficulty getting some of your line employees? I can imagine you have manufacturing employees. And I assume that it was an online survey. Was there any lesson learned there?
Yeah, I mean, we made sure that employees had access to a terminal so that they could take time to complete the survey. When it comes to compensation and benefits, employees are always ready to give an opinion. So that in itself wasn't an issue. I think, again, the time that it takes, but also the fact that employees had to personalize these questions, think about what's most important to them, really made them think. And again, when you think about compensation, benefits, your retirement, those are all things that are quite personal and quite important. And so from an employee perspective, sometimes the concern becomes, what are you taking away? And so we had some really solid communication up front to make sure people realized we were doing this for the right reason, which is ensuring that we really hit the things that are important to them. And the only way we could find that out is by asking the question. I think with that kind of feedback to them, they were happy to participate.
I know the WorldatWork Total Rewards inventory has more than 50 items on it. And I can imagine that you have a tremendous amount of employee offerings and total rewards. Did you have to limit it in any way, or did you try to ask every element of your total rewards in the survey?
I tried to practice restraint. It didn't always work too well. So we actually did try to focus on things that we didn't think we had as much information on. When it comes to things like base salary, we pretty much know that people really want more, and that's human nature. What we wanted to find out is, how do people feel about things like differentiating pay, for example? How do they feel about our bonus plan and how it's designed? So when we talked about compensation and the questions around those were about more application of our programs. And from a benefits perspective, again, asked a whole host of questions on what's important to them in terms of rank order. So we know things like healthcare and pension and retirement are important, but also wanted to find out things like career development, vacation, recognition. So we practiced a bit of restraint, but we wanted to really be holistic, which is a little bit of why our survey was so long.
So Ami, here's the big question. Is this a project that's going to end, or is this a project that is going to go into perpetuity for MillerCoors?
I don't see this being something that ends. Actually, we hope to weave it into the fabric of how we do our work. It's been a great opening for us right now to really ensure that we're looking at what's important to employees. My hope is that we continue looking at this every couple of years as we continue to make changes to ensure that we are meeting the changing demands of our employee base.
Really a terrific case study for MillerCoors. I want to thank Ami Patel for coming in talking about total rewards, conjoint analysis, and employee surveying. And for WorkSpan TV and WorldatWork, I'm Ryan Johnson.